you're good to go.
All right, can we discuss this later? Can we do the meeting, please? Thank you. No, not you. Joanne, we're live?
Yes.
Thank you. Could we do a roll call, please?
Here. All right, Maureen DeBeguer.
Here.
Ruth Dries.
Here.
David Fornes, I don't see. John Gregg, I don't see. Richard Handelsman.
Here. I bet you did.
John Hess.
Here.
Kelly Jansen. Bobby Levin.
Here.
And Joyce Reese.
Yes.
6, 7.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got a quorum.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah, good.
Do we? No? No, no, it's not executive board, this is operations. We have a quorum, yes. And the officers present are Stuart Richland here?
No,
No,
he said it's gonna be late. He won't be.
He's not here. Fausto Fabro,
I'm here.
Patricia Caputo,
Here.
David Boaz, and I'm here. We're good.
Thank you. I know everybody read the minutes as presented. Are there any corrections to those minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Joyce, seconded by Ruth. Thank you. All right, Miss Monica, you're up.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Slim pickings today, small crowd. You're looking at your statement of operations today, and this is for the fiscal year ended October 31st. So this is the conclusion of the fiscal and the budget year. So for the month of October, we had revenue of $571,000. We had expenses of $603,000, so we have a loss for the month of $31,746. For the year, for your income, you're looking at $7,150,000. That is a variance from budget of an excess of $1.4 million. You'll see on line 2, the bulk of that is the reserve income of $1.34 million, which is the use of reserve money to offset the cost of the air conditioning project and the emergency catwalk project that we had outside the car rooms upstairs. So all categories of income are over budget this year, which is a positive thing, with one exception. ID income is under budgeted. The actual is under budgeted by $2,800. On your expense side, most of your categories are expense or under budget for the year. Obviously, the largest over budget is repairs and maintenance, and that is, again, the result of the completion of the air conditioning project. So for the 12 months ended, our total expenses are $7,185,000, which results in a loss for the year of $35,891. We had projected in our budget that we would have a loss of $313,000. So that's a positive variance of $278,000. Always a good thing, because that money goes forward to reduce the coupon periods. At the bottom is your social activity summary for your theater and dance income for the month of October. Revenue was $6,398. For your theater, dances, and movies, we spent $6,660, so we had a loss of $262. For the 12 months, your theater and dance income amounted to $254,000. We spent $319,000 for your theater, dances, and movies, so it's a loss of $65,000. We had budgeted a loss of $137,000, so again, a positive surplus of $72,158. Any questions? The next report is your cash balances. As of the end of October, our total operating funds were $892,000. Our windstorm deductible reserves were $545,000. Our contingency infrastructure improvement reserves, $52,515,000. So our total reserved funds, $597,000, and our total available cash, $1,489,000. We're still continue to collect money to replenish the windstorm reserves and to build up the contingency infrastructure reserves. Any questions there? Okay. The next report is your social activities, profit and loss report, and this is for the month of November. So for our first month of what we call season around here, for the 4 shows during that month, we had 1,350 tickets sold. Our gross sales were $16,521. When we reduce that for the audience view cost and sales tax, our net sales are $14,567. We paid the performers $17,500, so we had a loss for the month of $2,900. Your Friday night dances, the 4 dances, we had total attendance of 579 people. We paid $1,415 to the DJs. And for your movies, we have 4 movies for the month as well. There were 631 residents that attended the movies during the month, for which we paid $1,284. So combining the 3 theater, dances, and movies together, for the month of November, we have a loss of $5,631. Questions? Okay. The next report is your Stoffel report, and this is as of November also, we're starting our new fiscal year. This year we had 32 units that were sold in the community, as compared to the same month last year there were 54 units. So we're continuing the trend of turnover being lower and lower than it's been in the last couple of years. So we did collect $6,940 in Stoffel income, and when we compare that to the previous year, November in 2022, we collected $11,330. So it's a decrease of 22 units sold, or $4,390. Last report is revenue collected from guests. This is also for the month of November. During November, resident sales at the box office was $28,522. Box office sales to guests were $3,782. So in terms of revenue, guest sales were 12% of total sales during the month. In terms of number of tickets, 2,164 tickets sold to residents, while 261 were sold to guests. So 89% of the tickets were sold to residents and 11% to guests. Included in the box office sales to guests is the $3 that's added on to each ticket price. So we collected $783 in box office sales. Guest passes that were sold in the ID office, $1,986. Guest passes sold in the staff office, $728. So total revenue generated from guests during the month of November, $3,497. Questions?
I notice a trend of outside sales that usually is around that 25% to 30%, and that's been cut in half.
I noticed that when I was preparing comparing these numbers on Saturday, I'm like,
I've never seen it under 20%. It's always between 20 and 30%.
yeah, I don't know if perhaps maybe there's, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But I went back and double checked my numbers because I thought, this seems low,
Yeah,
really low, because I compared it to the prior year and it was much higher.
go ahead, Richard.
Is it possible to trace the number of condos for sale in each month? No, because there's so many.
Yeah.
See, it
The
could
only
be-
way we have a beat on this at all is because WPRF charges an estoppel fee.
Right.
Um,
It just could be that there are no places for sale. or
Well, I
the
know
pri-
the inventory is very, very limited.
Right.
Yeah,
But-
and the prices,
But Richard, what we're talking about is the guest people that are coming in to view our shows is
right,
between 25 and 30%, and it's been there pretty close for the last 2.5, 3 years.
right,
Okay, now all of a sudden to go to 12%,
right,
that's a tremendous drop in revenue and people coming into the village.
right.
Maybe things will really pick back up this month.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Well, look at insurance rates and people will be
Yeah.
slammed.
Yep.
So I think that might have something to do with it. People will do.
Okay. Updates. I see Dan is not here, so.
He is actually, I just texted him to see if he was
I
on
don't
his way
think that's
down.
on.
It's not even on.
Uh-huh.
Here we go. All right. So, listen, as I wrote in the article, Hastings, it's done. We just need this one thing, all right? And this one thing, it's the permit, codes have changed. I mean, Hastings was built 22 years ago, 21 years ago?
That's all?
That's when it was renovated.
Oh, renovated? Oh, I'm sorry, renovated. I said the wrong thing, renovated. So codes have changed. So when you go in and you do a massive renovation, you have to bring everything up to code. And so one of the codes now is that we get the strobes, which we have in this room. It's under the clock, all right? So it's a strobe that if there's a fire, it's blinking, and also the strobe that we're gonna have is, you're gonna get a voice that tells you you need to evacuate the building. So we are waiting for that permit. The company is ready to go. They've got the parts. We're just waiting for that permit. I can't imagine that the work would take more than a couple of hours, and that we could get this done and opened, but this is what's stopping us. All right, so, and there's the man of the hour, Mr. Dan.
I'm with Santa.
And we heard you were coming in as Santa Claus.
I beat you to it.
You could be Santa Claus to be here.
Running just a little late.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Seacrest bring the basket yet? No, they didn't bring anything yet. Seacrest,
I
they
do.
bring the basket.
We're waiting for our Hastings locker room update.
Okay, well, I just got off the phone with,
Turn your mic on so people can hear you, please.
I just got off the phone with J.A. Fire, and they just, the engineer finally stamped it so that we could put the plans in. So what I discussed with everyone, okay, sometime next week, I'm gonna be, because everything, the fire department, of course, didn't catch this when they were doing their reviews for the plans. They caught it afterwards. We've been running this way for the same, with the same devices inside there. They just wanted to add more devices. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, just got the ladies' locker rooms with some new lockers that just came in. So as soon as they are installed, I'm gonna open it up, okay? Because the only thing I got left is to, just for the fire department to check the strobes. So everything else has passed, and I'm gonna go forward and opening it up next week when the locker rooms are, when the lockers are in place, so I don't have to shut it down. I will have to shut it down when they do their work and for the inspection, okay? So that won't be until next year, so we're in January, okay? So from that point on, so we could get that up and going, all right? vent shower, they're moving along with that, okay? We just, as you remember when we had the walkthrough, I don't think you were there, we
I would.
ran into, okay, so they basically have replaced most of that cast iron, okay, that's been rotted away, and, we had a little situation because the concrete was so close to the water lines, because back then, that's how they did it, they just basically poured right on top of everything electrically and water lines. Today, you have to go 18 inches underneath, but when they were jackhammering, of course, they hit our main water line coming in, okay? That was a big situation of, you can't have a splice underneath the cement. We finally found that there was a procedure, a special procedure that you could do, and we had to definitely do that procedure so that we could, because unless I would have to put a trap door underneath there, right underneath the toilet, just so I could have, access to it. So we were able to get through it with that and getting that okay and approved. So it's just a matter of getting the inspections for the plumbing, and then they'll start pouring.
Did they use compression couplings for that?
It's actually a soldering method that they do, the special soldering method. That's what we thought we could do, because that's how we repaired it,
Right,
but that's not what they wanted,
okay.
so. They're backfilling still, remember the big divot
Yeah,
that we
the
had
big
talked
one.
about? We had a gigantic divot inside there, so it's just about bringing, loads of yards of dirt and wheelbarrowing in, because there's no other way of doing it, other than to wheelbarrow it in, okay? But it's moving along.
That's really it that I had for you. Was there anything else you wanted to talk on?
No, unless there's any questions on your part with me.
Well, I have a question. With Mr. Less, who's this confidential informant that gave him the wrong information that he put out all over the place?
I have no idea. I didn't even bother reading it, so.
But I
just-
responded.
I know.
I responded and I called him.
See one-
I read him the riot.
At this point, the building departments are pretty loaded up, okay? And again, when you put a set of plans in, they're supposed to be under review, but their excuse is that they can't catch everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they come back, and if they find something, you have to do what they say. And fire is always gonna find something, that's the way it is today. And structure, with everything that's going on, that's another big headache right now.
Isn't the reason for the strobe light for handicapped
Handicap.
ADA, right?
Yes.
So
So we
that
had to
would be,
put it in different locations, because there's, how you have the locker room area, you got the shower area,
right.
so those are the 3 strobes where they needed to go for that purpose. Okay?
Eva, you're up next.
Yeah, just very simply, we continue to place cameras as we go along. And so what we basically do is whenever we have an incident, that's where we focus next. But Picnic Island, because there's a lot that goes on out there in season because the weather allows for that, they showed up last week. They started the work, but then we were hit with that terrible weather. So they had to put it on hold, and they're finishing up this week. All right, so then we'll have cameras out there so we can also keep an eye. Again, with the litigious nature of everything, you can't argue with video footage. It shows exactly what happened. Nobody can embellish, it shows exactly what happened. So it's a great way to protect ourselves against lawsuits. Then I would need to jump down to the discussion area, and we're talking now about the sports release. I know that, Monica, you had spoken with Laura, and she had reached out to outside companies to ask specific questions regarding
I
this.
believe you read to the committee last month, because I wasn't here,
Right.
specifically what Laura had said. Basically, the attorney she reached out to says it's all well and good if you have these releases, but it really doesn't mean a whole lot. It's not gonna hold an awful lot of weight for
Use
the
your mic,
potential inconvenience.
your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I don't have it with me today, specifically what she said, but the attorney that Laura reached out to is with a firm that does insurance defense work. And when Laura explained the whole situation to her, she said that basically the benefit she did not see would outweigh the disruption and the aggravation and the management that it would take to try to pull off a program to ask everybody that's participating in any type of activities whatsoever to sign a release in the community.
Well, that was an overreach, which I stated when we got that. I mean, it was a little ridiculous. As far as my original intent was, if you're going to play in any of the sports, whether it's tennis or bocce or handball, anything where you may have an injury or you may not be feeling good and you fall down and then you blame your lawsuit on somebody else. Well, I mean, when I saw going to the movies and going to the dances, that's a little bit ridiculous. So I can understand the overreach, but
Actually, we've had, you know, the dance floor can be a dangerous place.
I don't.
And then floating in the pool, I
I
mean, that's what they
understand.
do, but we've also had situations there as well, so,
I know, but
yeah,
But-
I know.
I mean, I happened to be there when the lady fell down, but it wasn't the fault of the dance floor. It was somebody that moved tables and chairs that you have so wisely now spaced the tables further apart so people can't fall down and can't get hurt.
Well, they still can, but we've tried to reduce.
Well, that's what I'm
risk.
saying. Right,
Yes.
right.
So we're gonna
But-
put all those tables back twice a year, and that's just for New Year's and Valentine's dance, otherwise it will be thin, it will remain thinned out. And, you know, we've always had parties in the back, you know, but somehow going through COVID, I think a lot of people forgot a lot of things, and we have a lot of new owners. We've turned half the village at this point, so they don't really know what's going on, so we're trying to put much more information in the reporter, hopefully that they read, because I don't know that they read their information packets, the new owner information.
I know that I'm one voice, but I think this committee should make it serious to have something that, a release form, especially for people that are playing sports, should be, I mean, it's my opinion, because I see people that shouldn't be walking, should not be driving, and they're driving on 3 phone books on top of an SUV, you know, and they think that they can get away with it. They can't see, they can't hear, and they can't walk, but they're driving. So, and I'm sure that some of these people go and they play sports and thereby looking for additional income. But that, again, that's my opinion. I don't know, I think the committee, if the committee wants to, have the attorney put something else in writing only to cover certain things, not everything. And, I mean, a blanket thing is I think way beyond that at this point,
Right.
you
Well,
know?
the other thing was, we were talking also and comparing it to what we were doing in the gym, so I printed our list that we have from the gym. We have 3,456 residents that have filled out a release and hold harmless. What we haven't been doing is going through that list, because if we've turned half the village, that means there's quite a bit on here that's no longer accurate. I've got names on here of people who signed but have sold and are no longer here. So I think Richard asked, what are we gonna do about that? And what would it cost to bring in extra security? Because I believe we would need to have extra security to try to enforce this if we did go ahead and move forward with the sports release and hold harmless. So I just ran just quick and dirty numbers. You know, the bill rate for a security guard is $23.36. If you wanted them part-time, 20 hours a week, it was gonna cost you $24,300 extra a year, and full-time would be just under $50,000. And that's for one guard. So if we found out that we needed more, then you would just, you know, times 2, times 3, whatever.
Well, the gym is the easiest, because all you need.
Yes, it is.
All you need is a computer terminal there. Person signs the release form, he gets put in the system. And when they come back, the guard, he shows his ID anyway.
Right.
Get in there, the person looks him up.
Right.
The other facilities is a little harder.
It's gonna be much harder, it's gonna be much larger. The scope of it's gonna be much larger. But again, John can't do it. He's in there, he's gotta watch everybody using the equipment. So who do we have to do that? And that's why it hasn't been done. So he doesn't even enter because he can't sit at his computer. So we give it over to the ID office or the ticket office to do the entries. So all of those forms come over here to the main clubhouse, and they're the ones that have been keying it in. But this is gonna be on a much larger scale. Yeah.
Question.
Yes, Richard?
Yes?
Dan mentioned the strobe lights, and we've been talking security. My question is simply, has Platinum Security been trained what to do if there's a fire? If the lights go out and those strobe lights go on, and there's someone handicapped in the bathrooms, do they know what to do?
It's voice activated.
Yeah, but
Well,
It speaks.
someone,
we have an emergency manual, because they have to follow
Yeah.
what procedures we have in place here. So we have emergency manuals, they have them at their desks, and they're supposed to have read them. Right? And know and understand what it is that they're supposed to do, and that's on the supervisors to make sure that that happens. And not only that, they have to read it and refresh themselves throughout the year, so that's also being done.
I know that there's people in the gym and in the locker rooms when they're open, handicapped, some severely. If the lights go out and the strobes go on, they will need help exiting.
Yes.
Okay.
So we do have drills too, but we will make it a point to make sure Hastings has those drills too. We have it for the main clubhouse, but I don't know, because that's under yours, if we have a plan for both of them. Okay, so.
What we do, and the
we
staff,
did it.
right, the staff helps security, because
Oh, yeah.
there's not enough of them to go through all the rooms that are here. So each office has been assigned certain rooms that we go into, we make sure there's nobody there, we lock the door behind us, so nobody can go in behind us,
All right.
right? So, yeah, we have our drills, and, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Came late, so I may be redundant, and some questions may have been answered, but I got a few.
I'm sorry, could I ask your name and what building you're with?
Sure, Marvin Fairtag, Windsor H.
Thank you.
The guest passes went up and then down and whatever, so they're $10 a week. And I have my grandkids here, and I noticed you moved the table tennis from this building over to Hastings, and I guess apparently they can't go to Hastings if they're under 18. So I don't know why that happened, but it doesn't seem that should be, there's not much they can do for paying for the guest pass. They can't, use a lot of the facility, can't use a billiards room apparently here. I don't know why 18 is the magic age for billiards. They can't play table tennis, etc. He took the basketball away. So when it comes, especially Christmas time, there's little for them to do, type of thing. So is there anything that can be done, like to make it equal for table tennis, or either access it at the Hastings facility, or put something here, like you have billiards here and you have it over there, right?
Well, we have billiards here. We don't really have billiards over at Hastings anymore, and because we have such a large billiard space here, it wasn't fair that billiards had two spaces, and yet table tennis was regaled to a small room where they couldn't really even have two ping pong tables.
Okay.
So it was a committee decision to give them a portion of the room upstairs over at Hastings, and so that they could have, play and also have tournaments and things like that. So as far as accessing it, that would be something that the committee would have to decide we would allow.
Same with the fitness center, I guess, again, you have to be 18, right? So
Yes.
what's the rationale for that, as opposed to 16, where they can go to a theater or,
Well, the only place that under 18 can go is the guest pool and also Picnic Island. So children, that's where children are allowed to go. They're not allowed at all the pool areas, and they have to be 16 to come here to use the clubhouse.
right? I know, that's what I'm concerned about, is that there's very little for them to do.
Yes, but 16 to come to a movie, but 18 if they wanted to go be up in the card room, be up in the billiards room, So there are,
I don't-
listen, we say no wagering, but we know what's going on, technically.
all right.
Doesn't the unit owner have to be with them when they're here?
Supposed to, yes.
Yeah,
With all their guests.
right.
Yes, yes, and as far as the basketball hoop, you know, we had something that was on wheels, it kept falling over, it was just, and it was being vandalized. So once they opened up those beautiful basketball courts half a mile up the road on Haverhill, and you can play at night where it's cooler,
And get mugged there too.
I don't know that that's the case.
It's not a good area. And you gotta drive out of the village, anyway. The other thing is, we used to have a Super Bowl party that was really good and well attended. Is there any possibility of that coming back?
Super Bowl.
We could bring it back. We didn't, once COVID hit and we came back, there was, you know, it was funny how the first year after COVID, we really didn't have a lot of residents, and it has slowly built up over time, so we just didn't do it because we didn't think the attendance would really be great. So I can certainly bring it back, put it on the budget, and have the committee approve it if they desire to do so.
Yes?
I don't know if I'm out of order, sir, but I moved to an over 55 community basically because I didn't want children running around. Now, it's true, my grandchildren used to come visit. We went to the guest pool, we walked around, we went to the beach, they came here to visit, not necessarily to use the facilities here. I don't think it's appropriate to have younger children running around the clubhouse or Hastings, my opinion.
They're not younger.
Well, but you have to choose an age. They chose the ages they chose, and
Right.
that's the rules.
All right,
Move somewhere else.
okay.
One more thing if I can, I don't get here too often. I noticed, I don't know, so I can't say for sure, but I know you took out some of the shuffleboard courts out there to play petanque, and I don't know how those are used, you know, to their fullest capacity. They might be. But is there any possibility, especially with the golf course being long since a dead issue, and there was a recommendation at the time by the county, although it never got followed up, that there should be some kind of golf feature possibly. You know, is there a way of making mini golf out of some of the excess shuffleboard courts? Or in some other area?
Actually, in season, those courts are used. We have we have clubs, different clubs that reserve the courts to play. So those are being used. In summer, no, not as much, but everything is about season, because that's when we have our greatest, you know, foot traffic. I don't know about, we don't have the space, and again, it would have to be something that the committee would be willing to give me the money. We'd have to figure out where that would go, what the cost would be. You know, putting greens, could we do some small thing with putting greens over at Somerset where the old petanque courts used to be, possibly, but again, that's gonna take money and planning, and I would need to be given that.
Yeah, yeah. I just throw it out there because
Yeah,
it's a good senior activity.
Mhm.
Kids with thrones go to the guest pool.
All right.
Thank you, Marvin, thank you.
Can we go back to new business?
Oh,
Does anybody, go ahead.
I just want, is there gonna be an executive committee meeting this month?
Yeah, next, there'll be executive board, we'll meet at the regular time next Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do you have some new business, sir? Go ahead.
I don't know if my question is in new business.
It is. Go ahead.
My question was about the statements. I'm a snowbird, I'm not here 12 months a year, about 6 months a year. So would it be possible to receive a copy of the monthly statement by email?
The financials you're asking
Financial,
about.
Yeah, by email?
That is something that we have, because we're in contract with UCO, that is something we have provided to UCO. So I don't know that that's something that you would want us to send out, and I guess I'd be looking to you to give me an answer as to whether you would approve it.
We've had this discussion, and whatever paperwork is handed out here, it's not necessarily put via email to anybody else other than the committee and the officers. But it is your reports.
Look, it's my report, and it's historically always only been shared with this committee, but if the committee doesn't have a problem with me sharing it with him, I don't have a problem doing so.
At this time, I don't know, but we'll let the committee think about it, and we'll discuss this next year, so we'll let the committee think about if they want to put all this information out to anybody that wants it.
Just,
Okay.
I would say just the owners.
Well,
That's-
well, how do you, that, it's Richard, that's a hard thing to do.
Yes.
They are.
That's impossible,
It's easy if I have one person interested in these reports, but
Right,
we got
Nobody's ever
5,000.
right, well, this is what I'm saying. Well, Daniel, we'll discuss it in January, the committee will bring it back, and we'll take it under advisement, and we'll discuss it.
Okay, that's all
Okay.
I asked.
I know,
I will make sure it gets on the January agenda so we can discuss it again.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
I have two things under new business, okay? Lately, I mean, this is an ongoing thing. Somebody loses their ID, whether they're an owner or a renter, or leaves, and the ID doesn't get turned in, okay? And it's creating a lot of issues and a lot of problems. My suggestion, since that ID belongs to WPRF, when a renter comes and he gets his certificate of occupancy, he pays $100 for that ID, and you hold it in escrow until that person turns it back in, and if he leaves without turning it back in, you've got $100, and that relieves the new tenant and the owner from preventing them from occupying that apartment.
I mean, this is something that, again, as I said, we're trying to put factual information into the reporter because we have so many new owners, and this is a big issue for us.
I know, it's a big issue for a lot of people.
Yes, and everything has to come to me, and I make a one-on-one decision on the situation when I'm given all of the facts. I try not to, if they're new owners and it's the title company, then we'll give them up to 4 weeks of a temporary pass while we're waiting for the title company to give us what we need. But when you've got this renter situation, as Fausto's talking about, they either forget, they don't care, what can they do to us, we're out of there, and then that holds up the resident owner from getting their ID back. Generally, I release it to them.
My concern is the renter.
Right,
If that renter's gotta pay $100 for that ID before they leave, unless they die, they're gonna come back and get their
I
$100.
believe that we tried that at one time, Fausto, and I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people,
It was $25.
I would have to check that. Some people they don't have the money, that's why they're renting, because
Well,
they can't afford
But
their
that's
home.
not our problem.
No, I know
Our
that.
problem
They're
is,
already, yes, but they're already tied into the lease without knowing they'd have to come up with
well,
$100.
we would have
per
to
ID.
notify whoever's renting that in order to get a resident ID, they're going above and beyond paying their rent to their landlord, who doesn't care about WPRF, okay, that they're gonna have to pay $100 deposit,
I think it's a good idea.
which is returned once they turn that in or they no longer live here. I think you run it through legal, whatever it is, but I think this is a must because it's creating a lot of issues.
Yes.
That's
It is,
the-
absolutely.
That's number one. The second issue I have is with your ID office, okay? I can't count the ways that your ID, no matter what problem the people have, I can't get into my apartment. They come to the ID office, go see Yuko. I can't get in there because I don't have a certificate of occupancy. They give them a blank form and they say, go to Yuko, get it notarized, and we'll give you an ID.
Well, no, not anymore, because now we have a checklist and we give them specific
They
instructions.
don't know how to read, Eva.
It's not true.
This happened
But
yesterday
let's-
and today.
Okay, but let's clarify that,
Yeah.
you're making it sound as if it's my ID office that's making all these mistakes and just sending people to Yuko. You and I have been working on this.
I know that.
We have tried many ways,
Yes,
put out information,
yes.
to make it clear, we give them a piece of paper that
Okay.
says, if you need this, this is where you need to go. You need to go to your building first, you need to get the signed, and you need to get the sealed in,
Yeah.
all right? Then you come back to us.
They don't do
So-
it. They're not, Eva, trust me, when I tell you, they're not doing it.
Okay, then what we need to do is consider something different. Let's
I-
keep working on it
I-
until we solve
I
it.
don't know what to tell you,
Yeah.
but I mean, people that work the front desk, ask Joyce or
A lady was
Maureen.
crying the other day.
People come in and they say, I just went to the office, they gave me this form. It's a certificate of occupancy that needs to be signed and notarized. And they don't tell them to go to the building, they go
They
to
give,
UCO.
no, they give them that form and we check the box and says, go back
They're not-
to the building,
they're-
2
trust me,
signatures.
I,
But I don't know that they're not, listen,
you know,
Some buildings don't have anybody there.
what can I tell you? And I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, but when you have 15 to 20 people a week coming in with issues, I mean, we've discussed some of them. One of them was yesterday, that poor lady yesterday,
She was crying.
that went back and forth, and you spoke to Donald.
Okay.
Heather actually made Donald go there
well,
to get
no.
her, to get her.
Okay, so let me give you the detail of this, okay? So when I'm on the phone and I'm talking with Donald, and then she even gets on the phone,
Right,
they left out one very important piece of information. And what was that? She was a non-resident donor. Non-resident donor is not entitled to an ID card and is not entitled to use the facilities. That was not given to me as information because I would have stopped it right there.
right.
So without knowing that, yes, she came over to the ID office because she had renters that did not turn in their rental IDs, yet they were friends of hers because now she's able to reach out to them and say, I need those back, and they will get them to
She
her.
didn't tell us that.
Oh, no, she
Right.
didn't.
No, she didn't.
No.
So you see, this is my point. So,
No.
you know, so what we did was, and Donald got involved because he was gonna be the one to sponsor her for a guest pass. But the truth of it was, you know what, if you're not gonna rent your apartment anymore and you wanna change your status, we gave them a new COA, went to the building, they got the president to sign it, they got everything they needed, came back, and now she is a resident who's going to occupy, whether as a snowbird for however many months a year, but as an NRO, new, right, non-resident status, they are not entitled to a WPRF ID card. All right, so yes, there was this big blow up, and yes, she was crying, but we didn't have all the facts, and when I had all the facts, I couldn't give her what she wanted.
I understand, but
I didn't have all.
I happened to be in that office, and I said to her, were you, I know that you're not gonna rent it anymore, do you have a certificate of occupancy? And she said, I believe it was given to me when I took over the apartment, when she inherited the apartment. So everybody here's.
Right, but what we had on our computer is that she had an NRO.
Okay, well, I'm not access to your computer, I'm listening to what the person is telling
I
me.
know.
But she didn't tell
Yeah.
us everything, Foster.
It-
Right.
No, but
But at first, I mean, she's crying, how terrible, we're terrible, what are we doing?
I don't.
But she didn't, we didn't have pertinent information.
I felt terrible, you're right.
The issue still becomes that information from your ID office is given to the people and it's incorrect. Now, either they're getting it, they're not reading it, I don't know. But I wish you could be a fly on the wall and listen to what those two girls have to listen, all three that sit there, and the stories that, they actually literally, Joyce, did they walk in and say, I was just given this, they sent me down here to get this done?
But are they giving them that piece of paper with the little boxes that we created, we put it together?
I know, but they coming in with that shit.
Foster, I think
Yeah.
the large problem is, aside from us, aside from the WPRF, the buildings, they're horrible. These people
Absolutely.
come in, they know
We're not
nothing.
gonna go there. I agree with you, but the issue still becomes when that situation happens, don't send them to UCO. Tell them to go to the building.
But it says that, if you need a COA, it tells them, go to your building president, come back to the ID office when it's all filled out.
They're
I'm
not
sorry,
reading
you
it.
know, this is, so when I send out the email, when I send out the agenda on Friday,
Yes,
I would have asked, you would have given me this information that you wanted to discuss this today, because I would have pulled the copies of everything and had it
This is
here.
just today.
Because now I don't have it.
this came today.
Okay. All right.
That's, you see, I made myself notes to remember it.
Okay, yep.
So, okay, Richard, you had your hand up?
Can you record conversations between the employees at the ID office and the people who come?
Two
Because it
conversations.
sounds to me as if the problem is the people, not your office. they give them the right information, and those people just run to Yuko no matter what is said.
So what I would say is that it's probably a combination of several things. And I would say, yes, it's the residents, they're new owners. It's one of the most invasive things you can do is to move. Turns your life upside down, right? And so here they are, they're moving someplace new, all right? And their heads, they're scattered. So, you know, we may give them the information, but they don't remember it. They might remember the first sentence, they don't remember the rest of it. That's why we created this piece of paper which says, the COA, take it to your building. It says, go to your building, go to your board. 2 signatures, come back to the ID office, all right? And then we can take it from there. So, you know, we're trying to whittle this down and narrow it down, and I'll be with you in a moment, Marvin. I see your hand.
Hold on.
So, you know, we talk about it all the time. We discuss the issues. We're looking for the solutions. We will continue to look for the solutions. Sometimes it's the people. I'm not saying my staff can't make a mistake, but when you're telling me 15 people and my staff is sending 15, making a mistake 15 times and sending them to you, that I have a hard time believing. I do. So, but I'm not saying they can't make mistakes. Yeah.
Again,
So-
having it written, and I show them to people, it's no different when people come and they bring us an application. Says right on the application, big bold letters, must be returned to the association.
Right.
And when we tell them that, they say, where's that? The realtor sent me here, or I went to the building,
Yeah.
and the building president told me to come here.
I know they're
They
totally
don't know how to
confused.
read.
No, I know that. And they don't know what they're really asking for. They could tell us something
Yeah.
that isn't accurate. You know, we also made a list. You and I sat down and we made a list
We
so
spent
that
months working on it.
security would know
Yes.
what stays here and what they would actually
Well,
send to Yuko. And my
I-
staff also has it. Everybody has it. So
I
again,
have to tell you, security is doing a much better job.
good.
Because I have not had anybody recently that has walked in and said, security sent me here.
Mhm.
So, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think a simple solution, if you're giving them a paper saying go over to Yuko, they have to present that paper. If they're,
I can hear him perfectly.
if they're giving you a paper with instructions to go over to their unit, to their association, and then go to Yuko, then they have to turn that paper into Yuko before you talk to them and say, where's your paper from WPRF? They give you a paper, where is it? You don't
Well,
have
that's
it?
one way to handle it. If they don't
Pretty
have that
simple.
piece of paper, then they need to come back to us, or they need to go back to their car and find it.
They don't have it, they go back and get it.
I even have my staff, they have to put their initials so we know which of my employees handled this particular resident. So we can go back to the right person,
No, that's okay.
you know.
Yeah, just whoever handled it, just initial it or put their name on it, and then turn
Absolutely.
it into Yuko. Yuko doesn't talk to them until they turn in the paper. If you don't have the paper, you're
Maureen, go ahead.
Going back to the non-resident ID cards, do they still, I don't want to talk, no microphone.
Then stand up. Then speak louder.
The non-resident ID passes.
No.
Why does a non-resident have an ID?
No.
ID, they used to have them.
They
right?
used to have them.
They were clear on the bottom.
Right.
They
They don't have
tried everything in their power
I
to
remember
use that to get in.
Correct, and that's why we decided, because people were so dishonest, right? And trying to cover with their fingers what they didn't want security to see. So that's when we decided, we brought it to the committee, we decided that they were not gonna get any. So we confiscate them when we come across them, and we issue no more going forward. But do I know that there's still some out there? Absolutely. But a non-resident owner is not entitled to use the facilities and should not have a card. They will be sent to Yuko for a gate pass. And then that's at your discretion if they want to get into the apartment to check it while they have renters in there, whatever the issue is.
The procedure is very simple. We can't stop them if they have a power of attorney or a copy of the deed.
Right.
They show their driver's license, security will let them in.
Mhm.
If it's questionable, security will escort them to the apartment, okay?
Yeah.
At that point, but again, we tell them, you can't use the facility, you can't do what you gotta do.
Right,
But we can't prevent them from coming in.
right. No?
Yes, Maureen?
So if we come across one of those IDs
A non-resident,
out in the village somewhere, we can confiscate it.
Yes.
As an usher
Yes.
or whatever.
yes.
Yep.
I had non-resident donors that came in to get their shots during COVID when we were giving them here at the clubhouse. I confiscated it at the table. They were not happy with me, but yes.
When? Just
Okay.
the other day, recently?
No,
They
COVID,
still
when-
have
Well,
it.
COVID, when we were giving out the vaccine here,
Oh,
I had
yeah.
non-resident donors presenting themselves and I was confiscating their ID cards.
Any other new business?
Okay, thank you.
Is there any, oh, yes, sir.
Is there any thought been given, I know it's gone around over the years, about putting some kind of a dining facility in the complex?
No.
No.
No, and I'll tell you, when I first became VP, I was sent down to Deerfield and they had a separate building on the other side of the main clubhouse pool. And we had different vendors going in there, nobody could make it work. I mean, they tried karaoke, they tried having coffee and cake after a show. They offered to deliver dinners to them even though they were only open for breakfast and lunch. It just was never a successful venture. And I would never recommend it.
Well, years ago, where the ticket office now used to be a restaurant,
Correct.
so.
Before my time, you must remember it.
Yeah.
Any other old business? Yes,
I
Dan?
just want to bring one thing up, because of the opening up the locker rooms again, that we're not going to play any games with the men's side sauna, so be aware with the fire and everything else that goes on with the fire department. One sign of somebody putting that in, I'm closing that immediately, okay,
Okay.
just to make aware. I can't play with it because if we get an alarm or anything like that, I'm gonna have to answer for all that stuff. So I'm
Okay.
doing this at the courtesy of saying that they follow the rules. And if they can't follow the rules, I'll have to close it until we get the overall, then it'll be your decision to reopen.
Well, if we find branches, if we find leaves, and if we find beer cans, we'll shut it down. But I've talked to so many of the sauna users. Some of them knew who it was, they would never turn them in. Would not give me the name so I could deal with it.
Well, I think
Look what it's caused.
Well, so when I get the phone call that the sauna caught fire, I would have bet a year's salary it was the men's. And it was the women's, so.
But the other thing is that the ladies sauna, the infrared, is working very well. Okay, so again, it's a costly thing to do, but will be a safer route. And they just have to, of course, it'll be about 8 to 10 degrees difference in temperatures, so, but it's a safer route if they continue to keep doing that for the next following budget year.
Okay. Yes, Maureen?
One more question. The ice distribution during the dances, is that going to stay the same as it has been, or is it going to be changing?
I have more and more residents that are asking they don't want to bring buckets, they just want a cup of ice. So, you already have an usher in the kitchen area anyway, but it would be about wearing gloves. I cannot put out a tray of ice like we used to do and let them come. COVID taught us so many things. It would be irresponsible of me to go there again. We can't do it, I won't. But how do we handle this? So I've asked Kevin actually to build a plexiglass frame.
It's there. It's there.
Okay. And we can keep the tray of ice, okay? But they're gonna have to wear gloves on their hands and they can give them cups. Noreen's already ordered the cups because we didn't have the styrofoam cups, but I don't see why not. You have those people who are very organized and they bring the bottles of wine and they bring everything that they need. You've got those people that just want to be able to go up to the counter and get a cup with ice.
Who's going to wear the gloves? The person that...
Usher?
That's going to...
Yeah, listen, the residents are not going to be dealing with this. They're not going to touch the handle of the ice scoop, not. We need someone who's going to control the cleanliness of it. We have to keep this clean and, you've also got, we know now, we've got the spray that travels up to 6 feet, so that's why I had this built, because I don't want it going onto the ice. I hear that COVID is up again. So, we're going to show that we're being cautious.
So we're not getting like cups of water. It's got to only be ice with them drinks or whatever. They say
Well, listen, we can tell them to go out to the water fountain. It really doesn't make sense. We could give them the water as well. We could have pitchers of ice out there. And if they ask for the ice with the cup and some water, we can do that. If we've got an usher in the kitchen anyway, why not?
Thank you for clarifying.
No, they haven't, they stopped it. But
We stopped it, and again, as we've now put enough distance between us and COVID, where I think we can pick this up again, and I think it's something we should do for the residents. So I know as ushers, we're having a meeting on Thursday, so this was gonna be a topic of conversation.
anything else? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Okay, because I didn't even talk about the permanent guest call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't you want me to jump that to the January instead?
Wait till January.
You got it.
Yeah, the permanent guest list.
Because I did reach out to DSL,
And,
not, ABDI, I got costs and what they thought. And then I talked to them about something else to try to organize.
well, to me, it's very simple. Yes.
Italians and IDIs, so that when they took the name out of it.
Right.
He's got some ideas, I'm not sure that it would work, but.
To me, it's very simple. The list only has 6 lines on it. You can't put more than 6 people. That's it, done. That was the committee decided no more than 6 names.
Well, I think